Hi, I'm Shannon Cross. I'm the author of The Path to Joy, 29 Family Strategies for Coping with Mental Illness and Finding Joy Again. And I welcome you. So in the last video, we talked about what can you do, what is your starting point for when you start to have that feeling like something's not going well with one of your loved ones and you might need mental illness help. So right along with this goes the issue of the stigma of mental illness. And that is one of the biggest themes in the book that I wrote, is that we have to get rid of the stigma, because the stigma only slows us down. So as family members, we start to notice that our loved one is collecting lighters, let's say, or they suddenly have all their pocket knives out, or if they are not a child, they're an older person, they may be drinking a lot, or anybody could be staying in bed all day. They could also be not sleeping at night. There's a lot of different things that you might be noticing. And what can happen is we can be talked out of getting help for our loved one because of the stigma. So we start to think, come on, they're just this, they're just that. Maybe we just moved. Maybe they're a teenager. Maybe they're dealing with their 60th birthday. It could be a lot of different things, and so we can be talked out of it. And then the stigma comes in, and it sits there, and it just stops us from getting the help we need. So one of the things that happened to us was when my son had his suicide attempt. Before that, we had writing that he was doing. We had all kinds of weird things in his room. We knew he wasn't sleeping. We couldn't get him up in the mornings. And basically, I knew that things were not going well, but I kept thinking, well, he's a teenage boy. There's so many pieces to this. But really what happened after we found some disturbing writing, we took him to his pediatrician. His pediatrician put him on medication at that point. It was not the right medication, but it was where we started, and then gave me a list of therapists to search and find. So I started looking for those therapists. Now, we live in a small town, and so the best thing probably would have been to find a therapist here who we could have gone straight to their place. We could have had the support of our community. But I remember I would sit and think about being in the waiting room and how, what if somebody came in? What if we knew somebody? What if we even knew the therapist? When you live in a small town, you never know. Sometimes you've met somebody and you just didn't remember. And so the stigma really held me back. So I was looking for therapists in the city nearby, which is 30 miles away. And because I didn't have that small town touch where they may have taken us, nobody was taking patients. Now, it was February and March of 2020 when the whole world was going digital and everybody was trying to decide how to do this whole virtual world. At that time, most places you went in, and at least where we live, you went in and you had your appointment. It was not that common to have a link and be doing it over Zoom or Skype. So, but because of the stigma, it slowed me down. I didn't know that from the time we went to the pediatrician to the time of his suicide attempt, I had 16 days. I didn't know. I thought, we're on this path, I have time, let's keep working. I was talking to people every day, nobody was taking new patients, and I was slowly being talked into, maybe we don't need a therapist, maybe this medicine's gonna work, maybe he's feeling better. There'd be good days and bad days, and so on the good days I would think, maybe it's just gonna be okay. So I have to say, get over the stigma right now, because if you have to walk the road that I walked, My husband and I spent 4 days in ICU with our son after his overdose. We had to tell basically everyone in our world what had happened. So get over the stigma, because where you're headed, if your loved one really needs help and you don't get it for them, is so much worse, and it's going to be so much bigger. The other piece of it is we have to fight against the stigma. We have to start saying, no, I'm not going to be ashamed. No, I'm not going to feel like a bad parent or I did something wrong. I'm going to say, this is part of our family. So there's a whole bunch of good things, and there's also some difficult things in every family. And this is what we're dealing with. And instead of trying to hide it and act like everything's fine, we're going to be fine, it's better to accept where you are, get rid of the stigma, and just get help. Remember, if you don't get the help that your loved one needs, you're going to have to deal with a whole bunch of damage control on the other end. If your family member had blood sugar issues, you would go and get help and go to a doctor, get insulin, whatever. If your family member found a lump, you would make an appointment and you would get them that help. So with mental illness, we often want to sweep it under the rug. We're embarrassed. We feel like, what are people going to think? Here we are, these great parents, and I guess they're not great parents. There's all these things that will start happening inside your head, and also about your loved one. So questions like, will people think differently of this person if they know that he or she has mental illness, or that they're dealing with some mental issues? So the best thing to do, though, is to rise up and say, we're not going to be ashamed. We're not going to hide it. It's not a big secret. It's a medical issue, and we are dealing with this medical issue in our home. So good luck to you. I hope that the stigma will not hold you back. Don't forget to go to my website, shannoncross.com. Remember, I'm Shannon with a C, CHANNENCROSS.com. And I hope you find your path to joy.